So, someone asked me recently in a conversation, why is it so important to connect with the pelvis? Like, what is so meaningful? Why do I need to be doing that? Why do I need to be doing that in my personal life? Why do I need to be incorporating that in how I come into my career and trying to live, a life of expansion and growth? And it's so funny because when she first asked this question, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I talk about this all the time. But the truth is that I don't really hop into social media all the time in order to speak and to share. I usually do that really in the Living from the Core membership that I have. I do that with my VIP private clients, and then I do that in workshops and retreats and when I speak. And so when I speak on Insight Timer, I do that too. So it occurred to me today, let's get into this. Why does Sarah Smith think that it is so vitally important to be connecting to the pelvis? Well, I'm going to go to this whole core alignment method that you may or may not have heard me talk about before. CORE. C is connecting to your physical core. So let's start right there. It's important to connect to the physical core, especially for women, but also for just anyone with a pelvis. Everyone has a pelvis. Everyone has a pelvic floor. And when you learn to connect to this part of the body, you are awakening back into very, very ancient wisdom within yourself. You are specifically tapping into a sense of safety and security that most of us are looking externally for. So most of us are looking for safety and security in our bank account. We're looking for safety and security in the type of house that we have, or the type of job that we have, or the people that are in our lives that are creating that safety and security. Well, within you the entire time, you have this piece of safety and security, and it starts by connecting to your physical core. So that means understanding how the pelvis works, how it functions, how your bladder works and functions, how your bowel works and functions, when to understand and know if something isn't going well, and how to utilize the pelvic musculature correctly in order to stabilize your core. I remember working really a few years into my career with an Olympic athlete, and at that time I hadn't heard the astounding research that female Olympic athletes have one of the highest rates of pelvic floor dysfunction, and especially urinary incontinence, of any other group. And so I hadn't heard that at the time, but it was really astounding because this individual came in, and she had been to several different physical therapists. She was able to do any core exercise you gave her. I mean, this girl was like jacked. She was really, really strong, but she was strong using her big driver muscles, not her core inner muscles. Your core is the beginning part of you. It is really, truly the pieces that are so, so close to the bones. And so it's your inner core. And if you've been around me a little bit before, you've heard me say that we're like an onion, and we are like that even in our musculature. And so when I was asking her to do these very simple core exercises, utilizing her pelvic floor, it was impossible to do. So connecting to your physical core is just fundamentally vital, in my opinion. And that is so that you can age well. Like, one of the first ways that you can tell something in your body isn't going well, or that something is off, is by your bowel and bladder function. It's one of the first ways. There's also a few other ways, but that's one of the first. Okay. Then we get into O. This would be opening and overcoming blocks that you are not aware of. So this is the O of the core alignment method. And so by connecting to your pelvic floor and your core, by living from this place, by embodying this place, by being within this place, you are opening and becoming aware of things that you didn't even realize before had been tripping you up, slowing you down, creating challenges in your life. And I stumbled upon this one really interestingly. So when I was working as a pelvic floor physical therapist, and I had already had a lot of years of nutritional training and yoga, several different certifications under my belt, and already doing some energy work with clients. But when I was working as a physical therapist, what I started to see that really perplexed me and interested me was that when people started connecting to their physical core, okay, and learning and educating and knowing what it was like and really being mindful of that, then suddenly they were coming back and they were saying things that they're like, gosh, I haven't even said this to my therapist before. Or, long ago, I actually had this dream of this business, but I never really thought, I just did what I was supposed to do. And I went and I became, a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor. But I've also had this other thing going on that I've always really wanted to do. So it was like suddenly when people start connecting, this is what I was seeing in my practice, was when you start connecting to the physical core, then you become more aware of blocks and things that are getting, again, in your way from living the life that you want to have. If you've been dealing with grief, if you've been dealing with loneliness, if you've been dealing with imposter syndrome, I have a lot of clients who, and myself included, have been dealing with imposter syndrome. Getting to your core is the missing link. Now, I'm going to take a sidestep. Why is it a missing link? Well, interestingly enough, when you look back in history, we have been shamed, abandoned, hidden, like everything has been in the stars. Hello, little wasp. In order to keep us away from the pelvis. Because when you connect with the pelvis, you are connecting with your own innate wisdom. You are connecting with a deeper sense of God, of source, and of truth. You are connecting back to your state of personal power. And why? Because you are then creating safety and security in your life. You are becoming the person, the loving person to yourself that you have always needed to be. So a lot of the things that you may be looking at or the books you may be reading and all of that, what is missing is connecting back to the pelvis first. And I'm not talking about like having to have some really big, significant, earth-shattering connection to this. I'm talking about like quick, easy, really just getting into the lifestyle of living and embodying all the way down from the pelvis and the core. So O is when you start opening and overcoming these blocks. And then R is when you reconnect to this inner wisdom. I personally believe that and it's not just personal, it's because I've also been studying this and doing case studies for a while and researching anything that I can possibly find, is that when we connect to the physical core, overcome these blocks, and then we are really, really able to reconnect to our inner wisdom in a way that's pure, in a way that's true. And what I mean by inner wisdom is your intuition, your ability to that gut knowing, to go like, gosh, I should turn left instead of right now, or, this just doesn't really feel right for me, or this is a yes. I don't know why, it's just a yes. What I found is that when you connect to the pelvis and you've established greater safety and security in your system, you are more likely to be guided in a more pure and effective way. So if you're trying to increase your relationship with God, if you're trying to increase your relationship with Source or with the divine or with your own inner wisdom, if you're not getting all the way to the core, if you're being led only to your heart, it's not enough. Okay? When you only go to your heart, you're completely cutting off everything that's lower and grounded, rooted. Okay? So that's the R. And then there's E. What's vital, what I started finding as I was getting into this work and I was practicing this with people and like really trying it on for size for myself, was that there's also this thing of emerging. So I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but it's a phenomenon like when you start getting into self-development and self-help, like which is a whole other category, but you start to know that you have changed and some people around you are noticing it, but you haven't really yet emerged. You haven't felt that ability to really go for it. And so the E of emerge is really sinking into this practice of courageous, creative, practicing of trust, of being able to go out there and take action, and even if it's imperfect action. So that is why connecting to the pelvis is the missing link that I think that we really, really need in our society. We need to be more connected in our bodies. You see this through the somatic practices right now. Embodiment work is huge and it isn't going away. But is it getting into the pelvis? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It depends who you're learning from. It's also vital because it really truly reconnects safety and security in your system. And having done this work with hundreds and hundreds of people, when you start peeling back the layers and I get to that root, it's often that imposter syndrome, that shame, that fear of abandonment, of I'm not good enough, of what is my worth. And even if you don't see it now, it sometimes pops up later where then we uncover those layers. So that again is why it's so vital to connect to the pelvis. The other reason is that, again, to connect it back to health and our inner being. When you are more embodied, when you are following more of your gut and your intuition, I call it pelvic and core wisdom, and when you are able to follow through and emerge with that, your physical body shines through. Your health shines through. You are more accurate in being able to care for yourself and be your advocate in your health, in your wellness, in your mindset, in your mental health, in your relationships, and in your career. And when I've seen people do this in their career, it has made big shifts. I'm talking people right out of the gate being written up in Southern Living the first year. I'm talking people selling their businesses for more than they ever could have possibly imagined 20 years before they thought they'd be able to retire. I'm talking about people making six figures very quickly and becoming like online sensations before they ever thought it was possible. People starting businesses before they ever thought it was possible. People doing things that they love and giving back in ways that they never thought possible as they were living in financial security. This stuff is cool and I can't make it up. All I can do is just keep living into it. So I hope I've encouraged you today. Please learn and get excited. Follow me. Get on the email list. If you go to my website, www.drsarahsmith, S-A-R-A, not S-A-R-H, S-A-R-A.smith.com, then I have a free download where you can try the pelvic wisdom meditation and a free training that goes with that. You also can join the Living from the Core membership. This is a year membership and it does start, depending on when you're watching this, July the 1st. And I really would invite you to be part of this. It is a very reasonably priced membership, and you come into community with myself and with everyone else who is choosing to live from the pelvis and the core. It is a beautiful practice. We live by the seasons, we live by the moon cycle, we set professional and personal goals and intentions with this beautiful flow and letting go in our lives, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's just one of my favorite things. So I hope that you will continue to engage in this work, and thank you for listening.